If you like this episode, please subscribe, share with others, rate and review so we can continue to bring you great programming.
This is The Thing About Cars, a podcast for car enthusiasts and the people who love them.
Hello, this is The Thing About Cars. I'm Mickey Desai, one of your hosts. Around the table, we have the one, the only trivia czar, Tim. Tim, how are you, sir?
Doing great, Mickey. Thanks.
And Misty, all the way in the Netherlands, as usual. How are you, Misty?
Not moist. It's not raining.
You have sunlight, I see.
I'm so excited.
And Ben, how are you, sir?
Oh, just peachy. How about you?
Ben is fixated on peaches today. It's not even peach season. Never mind, Ben. Good God. Our special guest
It will be soon.
It will be soon. That is true. Our special guest for today is Indy Saini. Indy is an award-winning director, writer, and Emmy-nominated cinematographer. How are you, Indy?
Good. Great to be here with you all today.
Thanks you for joining us today. I can't wait to talk about your documentary and your other work. There's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. But before we jump into that, Tim, you got a trivia question for us today?
I do. So our question is, who do elite stock car race teams currently prefer to have on their pit crews to do the tire changing? And our choices are A, former professional and college baseball and football players, B, former U.S. Navy SEALs, C, ASE certified master technicians who actually build the race cars.
Okay, wait. So athletes, soldiers, or techs?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll answer that at the end of the show. Missy's got this really pensive look on her face right now.
Yeah, I'm afraid my little hamster's just kind of, over in the corner of the cage twitching.
Yeah. So Indy Saini, our guest for today. I've been looking forward to this episode since we agreed to do this some weeks ago. You're on the West Coast, so it's 9 a.m. where you are, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
It's an ungodly hour of 9 a.m. So I shouldn't say that because, anyway, I much prefer to sleep until 11
Well, it is,
every day.
yeah. I'm not a morning person, so I was like,
Right.
yeah, I can do 9, sure.
Oh, I'm glad you're here. You've done a documentary called Women in the Front Seat. Can you tell us about the documentary? And I mean, there's a ton of stuff that I think we should talk about, but I don't want to steal your thunder. How did you come up with the topic for this documentary? How did you go about making it happen?
So Women in the Front Seat is a documentary about women motorcycle riders, specifically about women riders who not only drive their motorcycles, but drive their lives. So it's filled with stories of women who've come to riding in a lot of different ways. Women ages like 22 to 72 from all different class backgrounds and racial makeup. And it's really like their inspiring stories of how motorcycles have affected, changed, and supported their lives. And just some really fun stuff about them too. Like I hadn't intended to make a documentary. Originally, it was going to be just sort of a docuseries about some badass women I met on a road trip that I was doing on my bike. And as I was meeting the women and talking to them and riding with them, their stories, I found all of these like common themes between them all. And as I'm like riding between destinations, the idea of weaving it all together to something more than just profile pieces began to form.
Wait, say that last part again. Something more than just profile pieces?
Yeah, because originally what I was going to do was just do like a web series where I would just talk about, this woman that I met and how cool she was and like a little bit about her. So it was going to be like, depending on how many women I met, because I didn't know when I started out on the road trip, because I went from Boston to LA, obviously not direct, kind of up and down the country. Just following leads, somebody was like, oh, I know somebody in such and such city. Are you going there? And I was like, well, if you know somebody there, I'm going there. And so I just thought I would, whoever I met, I would shoot something about them and I would do like a 5-minute profile piece. Mm-hmm. And then after I started meeting the different women and sort of like, and meeting their worlds, because some of them were like part of these like large women motorcycle clubs or groups, or I just discovered kind of this fascinating world that I didn't even know about. Like most of my life as a rider has been solo, or wherever I'm working at the time on a film, I'll just ride with the other crew guys. And so it was a discovery process for me. And as I was discovering these women and the women motorcycle culture and the depth of it all, I was like, oh, this is super cool. This is more than just profile pieces. And so, during the ride, the mind is going, and all of these sort of like common themes started weaving together into this sort of bigger idea.
That's really cool. Which became the film. So you've won some awards with this film, right?
Yeah. So we finished it last spring, and it started out on the festival circuit in June. And I had really no idea how it would be received, because it's a non-traditional motorcycle documentary, meaning that it's it does follow my narrative as I'm riding, but it's not so much an adventure story as it's a little more philosophical, and it's really centered around the stories of these different women. But I was very happy to find out that it did really resonate with people, like not only riders and not only women, but people really responded to, sort of the hero's journey of all these women, how they overcame the fear and stepped into riding a bike and what that meant for them in their lives. And so it sort of it spoke to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. And so right at our first film festival, we won Best Documentary. And then it went on for the next 6 months, traveling around the country, winning audience awards and other Best Doc awards and cinematography award. And it was just like, I was, kind of blown away, because, I didn't know how if it would speak to anybody other than like, people like me who love bikes.
Sure.
I have to say, this is so weird, because my husband and I were talking this morning, and I was watching something about Formula One drivers. I was like, oh my God, Fernando Alonso started racing karts like when he was like 3. And my husband and I got to talking, and I was like, yeah, I've been riding dirt bikes since I was like, I'm not even sure I could walk yet, because my family we always did dirt bikes, like Easter egg hunts, where literally we go to the national forest. All the adults go hide the eggs on dirt bikes, and then we go. And I think I got my first little dirt bike when I was like 8. But I started like riding, like as a passenger on street bikes when I was like 6.
That's awesome.
So it's always been, and my son, he's like 23. He's like, I think I'm going to get a bike instead of a car. And I'm like, okay, just make sure you pull like 2 baffles so people can hear you, because that's, a big thing for me. And I'm, some parents are like, oh my God, I don't want my son riding a bike. And I'm like, dude, those things are so much cheaper on gas. And it's like, have you priced parking in Amsterdam lately?
Andy,
this is so weird that it just, because I was talking about bikes this morning, and then, here, yet another woman who's like, just put me on 2 wheels and I'll be perfectly okay.
There are many, and Misty won't remember this because she wasn't working with us at the time, but the first time we did an episode that we jokingly called The Thing About Motorcycles, there was a woman at the table who was an avid rider, and cannot remember her name. I want to say it was also something like Misty, but but she was just all gung-ho about riding, just loved it, embraced it. The whole lifestyle was hers. Indy, what do you ride?
Currently, I have the same bike that I rode during the trip, which is a 2015 Indian Scout. Which, it's not necessarily the best bike to do like a really long motorcycle trip like I did, but I love to ride that bike, like as a lot of women talk in the film. And I think just for motorcycle riders in general, like people gravitate towards bikes that feel right to them, like just feel like an extension of their body. And this bike is like just the right height. I kind of have short legs and a long torso. And so like the whole riding position, like it feels like it was like built for me. It's like unbelievably comfortable. And I have a injured back. And so a lot of positions, like it's not comfortable for me to drive a car. Like I hate, it's just, that position is really not good for the way my body now works. But this bike, no pain. I could just go and go and go. It's really perfect. So
I think too that the Scout is a bit underrated as far as adaptability.
Say some more about that, Ben. What do you mean? Yeah.
Well, I mean, for listeners who don't know what we're talking about, this is the smaller model of this line of kind of traditional American cruisers. Of course, Indian is a revived company. The original company went out of business in 1955. They're back now as part of, I believe it's the Polaris conglomerate, but they make a very traditional, old-fashioned American style bike for the most part. And the Scout is kind of the smaller model of those lines, and it itself is available in several different levels with different numbers of gears and doodads and nice features and things. But it's a smaller bike, and it's often thought of as kind of the Indian's equivalent of the Harley Sportster, but it's very underrated because you can adapt it and change it to suit you. It's got a lot of potential there. So good for you on seeing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm amazed that a motorcycle riding position is better for your back than, because I mean that's I'm 6'5", so I think of myself trying to be hunched over handlebars for an extended period of time be a negative for me. I'm happy it's a positive for you. It worked out well.
Yeah, well, I think that again, it's like kind of the shape of the whole thing. Suits different bodies differently, and yeah.
Well, that's like. And I'm different. I'm close to Tim's size, and I ride a BMW GS, and the main reason I ride that bike is because the ergonomics work for me. I have no personal ambition to conquer the unpaved world, but the GS fits my body.
Yeah,
and it is pretty mean in the curves.
Yeah, I think when my mom got her first bike, I think she had the Virago, the Yamaha Virago, but this was like way back in the 80s, early 90s, and it was absolutely perfect for her because. I mean, I'm taller than my mom, but I'm like 5'3.5". So I'm about the size of a coffee table. And for her, it was just low slung, just perfect enough, so she could, she had a presence and she wasn't, standing on her tippy toes like I am on every single Dutch bicycle. Because
the Dutch people are super tall. That's why.
Well, yeah, because Tim's over here like, I'm 6'5", and I'm like, okay, you need to grow like 4 inches because like my husband's 6'9".
Well, and I get my height from the Dutch side of my family.
Yeah, see,
So
absolutely
am
true.
I the only person here today who hasn't actually ridden on a bike, like gotten on a bike, started the engine, and moved it more than a couple inches? Am I the only one here?
Apparently.
Oh my
Apparently,
God.
but I think I'm revising my wish list for my birthday. Maybe I'll just say no to the new MX-5 and tell my husband I want a bike.
There you
go.
Yeah.
There you go.
And I have ridden a motorcycle, just not very successfully.
I think the only thing I could do on a bike is fall over.
Yeah, that's it. That's easy.
There's plenty of that can happen too. I think in training stages, there's a lots of falling over.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, Indy, for the women that you interviewed for your movie, did you find any consistent personality traits that stuck out that set them apart from an average person of the population? Let's say
non-bike riders.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I think personality traits. I would say that they're people. In general, it's like people who reframe what how they approach life into like a forward-moving way, as opposed to like, oh my God, this is really scary. It's like, okay, this is really exciting, and I'm gonna do this, and it's not like, oh, I'm experiencing fear here. It's like, no, I'm gonna have the courage to take this on. So it's sort of like, people who really just want to attack life and get everything they can out of it, for sure.
Yeah.
And also joy. Like everybody I met was like just filled with joy. Like they really love life, and I think it's because they've tapped into something that helps them move through it in a way that like fills them up.
That's really fascinating to me, and also sort of just makes sense. You've literally, well, I shouldn't say literally, but you figuratively, metaphorically grabbed a bull by its horns, right? And coming through the other side of that struggle, I imagine would lead to a lot more personal satisfaction, peace, purpose, things like that. That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
And a lot of people find the peace. Like one of the women, she's a police officer, and she'd ride her bike to work every day, and she just talked about, I don't think it's in the film, but she just talked about like getting on her bike at the end of a work day, as a police officer, and just riding home, and how like just between her workplace and getting home, it was just like shedding all of that, stress of, working as a police officer. And so by the time she's home, she's just like, phew, she's all good.
A funny aside to that, the last time I took a rider training course, it was after I'd taken a hiatus from two wheels for a while. I took the basic course again to kind of refresh myself, and there was a female police officer in my class. And after we were all done and everybody had passed the test and everything, I asked her, "So do you want to be a motor officer now?" And she said, "Oh, hell no."
Yeah.
But she wanted to ride her butt off for fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Saini, is Women in the Front Seat the only motoring documentary you've worked on? I know you've done some other things, but I don't know if the other things are all geared towards being on the road.
No, it's the only thing that I've done like that. It's my first documentary. Everything else I've done has been narrative based. And I mean, I had pitched a variety of different ideas around motorcycle riding in the past. Well, centered around women and motorcycle riding for like 10 years, but none of them got picked up or greenlit. And then eventually I just made this one, on my own accord, like over the course of it took me over 5 years to complete it, because I would do it and then go back to my day job as a camera person and make some more money, and and then like just kept trotting along through it.
Right. So
I'll say though, I'm sorry, Mickey.
No, go ahead, Misty.
I was going to say, I will say that, like I said, as someone who's been, on bikes and around bikes since, the 80s, and I'm very quickly approaching a milestone birthday, I have been absolutely thrilled to see the change in how people in general look at women that ride motorcycles. Because I remember very clearly, I mean, I was a senior in high school, and I'd gone to see my high school boyfriend. Hi, Mickey. Not you, Mickey, other Mickey. I'm just saying, play soccer against, a local team. And my dad come pick me up, and, we were standing there next to the bike, and this guy walks by and just, throws off, a slur, indicating that, I dated women, which not a bad thing. I would. But but that was the kind of attitude that you would get back in the 80s and the 90s, where if you were a woman on a bike, you were misandrist and you hated men.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I just like things that go zoom.
Yeah. It's actually a pretty strong misconception. There's some of those stories in the film around that, and and I get it. And I mean, even today. So it's like, and that's part of, in making the film, part of it was to break down stereotypes. And even like at a film festival that I was at, it was in North Carolina. I had a couple waiting for me when I came out of the Q&A after the film. And the woman was like, "You know what? I wasn't sure if I wanted to come see this movie because thought it was going to be about a bunch of lesbians, but I'm really happy I did." And then she went on to tell me what she liked about it. And I was like, cool. This is why I made this movie, and I love that.
That is so awesome.
And I love that she, had a good experience with it. And
I have a question about filmmaking before we get back to the issue of motorcycles or whatever. But you say this is your first documentary, right, Indy?
Yeah.
So
the first one I looked at that was my own. I've shot on other people's documentaries, but it was the first one I made.
Do you think you might shoot others, and how difficult is it to pitch something like a documentary than any other kind of media project? Because I imagine the funding types for documentaries is a little different than funding for any other kind of entertainment. Is that not a fair statement?
It is. It's different, but there is a lot of funding out there for documentaries. There's a lot of grants. There's a lot of organizations that are like specific to certain themes and certain social issues. And when I was, deep in the making of this, I'm like, I'm never going to do a documentary again. This is so hard. I don't know where it's going. And I've already started shooting my next documentary. So
awesome.
Yeah. But now I sort of understand, I learned a lot on this project. And so I'm going into this next documentary with my eyes more open, and I'm putting together, like I just shot something a couple of weeks ago. it's a lot heavier subject than the last one. The women in the front seat is much more lively and fun and playful. And the next movie is about human trafficking in the U.S.
Okay.
And I was just at the UN last week filming there for their commission on the status of women and girls. And so, now I know, like, I'm going to cut something together and put it out there to raise some money to make the film. So yeah, it's definitely, there's money there,
Sure.
but you have to package it the way that it suits that.
Exactly. The way that it suits the funder. Exactly.
Yeah.
So do you also work on your own bike?
I wish I could say yes to that. I was super inspired by so many women that I met that do that. And I'm like, I've actually signed up for a course at one point, and then I got distracted with other stuff. And so I do not have those skills. And I actually haven't done a lot of customizing to my bike either, which I'm like, I'm going to do this and that. And then I get busy on another work project and I don't do it. So, yeah. But I still would like to learn how to do that. You know?
Yeah. Tim, I thought I saw you trying to ask a question a second ago.
Well, back on the topic of funding, do you happen to know Faith Fuller?
I do. Well, I don't know her personally, but I believe she runs the documentary desktops. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I took some of their courses during the course of making this last documentary, and it was very informative.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. She's let me back up. She's basically more of a friend of a friend, but I mean, I do hang out with her twice a year. So, yeah. So, yeah, because I know that the world of film can also be, it's like in racing. It's a small world. Once you start bumping into people, you bump into more people that know people who know people. But,
do not start singing that song.
On that note, I can't wait to see this film because I'd be surprised if I don't know somebody who's in it.
Right.
Right.
So, speaking of which, you can catch the trailers. There are a couple trailers, if I'm not mistaken, on YouTube. You can even watch the thing on YouTube, but you have to rent it or buy it from YouTube. Otherwise, it's on Amazon Prime, and it's called Women in the Front Seat. This is really cool stuff. I can't wait to watch it. The trailers are very, very compelling, and it just looks like a lot of fun. And you may have, and I mean, I don't know if I ever get back into shape again, and I have back problems of my own. I'm not sure it's wise for me to be on a bike, but
you can do it.
Yeah, maybe you're in the right position, Mickey.
I need a 70s era chopper with the handlebars that are way out in front of me or something. Is that what you think, Tim?
No, actually, that's worse for your back than a lot of other things because that makes your spine kind of form like a letter C, if you will. You're putting a lot of load on your lumbar with that sort of thing.
Yes.
You probably want your feet under your hips and your shoulders just slightly forward of your pelvis.
And that's the way that my bike lines up. And it feels so good.
So I'd say what, Goldwing, you think, Ben?
You could do that on that. Anything with a fairly upright seating position that does not have forward foot pegs.
Okay.
Like my GS is like that. And this position we're describing is actually remarkably similar to the neutral body position that you would assume if you allow yourself to drop underwater and just let the water, the kind of your feet are kind of hanging down, your arms are in front of you a little bit. That neutral position that you'd get in a buoyant situation is remarkably close to an ideal riding position.
Huh.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So everybody get to your local pool and find your perfect riding position.
It's not perfect for everybody, but for like tall people and folks who have to watch their backs, it works pretty well. I'm very long spined myself, so lumbar is a real issue when I ride.
Yep.
And just have like really short legs.
Shall we ask Indy our typical questions at the end of the guest segment here? Let's do that.
Yes.
All right, Indy, here we go. You know the drill. The first question is, what's your dream car? I think in this case we can substitute it also for what's your dream motorcycle?
Well, I was thinking about what my dream car is, and I'm gonna jump on the dream car thing because I was listening to your podcast, and in the flying car episode, that's my dream car. I want to have a flying car.
That would be cool. Yes.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So then let's follow it up. Do you have a dream motorcycle? Have you seen another bike that you said, oh, that would be cool?
Actually, a few, and some that I got to do some test rides on. But I was very drawn to the Ducati Scrambler. You know, like I did have a dual sport at one point, and I love the GS and those type of bikes. But I think it would be super fun to have something more in the lines of like a cafe racer. You know, it'd be fun to kick around town on. So I also tried out a Triumph Bonneville, and that was super fun. So I think something along those lines, that's just like cute and really negotiable.
Sure. Absolutely. Where is your next road trip going to be?
I think I'm probably, well, I don't know yet, but I would love to do a trip that's through the national parks.
Yeah.
I haven't done, I've done a lot of cross country type trips and, destination to destination, but I haven't done just a fun, have lots of time to do it and camp and just enjoy the scenery type of trip in quite some time.
That
So I'm so close, I'm like close to like all of those beautiful areas.
Yeah.
You should really come out to Georgia and do Helen to Hiawassee.
Southern Appalachia has some of the best twisty roads on the planet. And
if you want to do it outside of the U.S., you go to Luxembourg.
Really? I did not know that.
It has the same mountains sort of as the Appalachians. It's the Belgian Ardennes. Well, they call them the Belgian Ardennes. And they are that same, and they have roads that just kind of go down the mountain. They go whoosh, zoom.
Switchback after switchback.
Yes, and they are perfectly banked, and especially in the fall.
Although Misty has mentioned something called Helen, Georgia, and I will say this: she's right about the roads, but I do not like the actual city of Helen, Georgia.
Avoid the town at all costs.
Avoid the town, but the roads around them are fantastic.
Yeah.
It's something you should experience at least once in your life, because Helen is, oh my God, Helen, I don't even have any words, but it's special. Bless his little heart.
It's a little Appalachian town that pretends to be Bavarian, and it's very, very small, and on a nice day, the traffic there is ungodly. I've never done a slower mile than creeping through Helen on a sunny day.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is.
All right, Indy, question number 3. What's the most fascinating thing you've seen while on the road or maybe in someone's house or garage?
Fascinating thing that I've seen on the road.
A memory, a landmark, a thing, a car, anything.
Yeah. Well, some of the fascinating things are like sometimes when you're going out across the country and you see things like, gigantic clothespins or something like that, like 4-story high clothespins.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I've seen a few of these like random weird objects just out in the middle of nowhere, and I'm not sure if that's just an art piece or
if you enjoy finding that stuff. If you don't know it already, I'll recommend a website called Roadside America.
Oh,
they have got everything, all the little quirky things out there.
Oh, cool.
Do you mean there aren't creatures out there that actually use a 4-story tall clothespin?
Well, if you have one of those big American flags the size of a tennis court, then when you wash it, that's what you use to hang it up to dry.
Thank you, Tim. That makes so much sense now. Yes.
That does actually make a lot of sense.
Well, we just use like the little flag girls in our high school band to dry the American flag.
Just have them run laps around the football
True
field.
story. Yeah.
All right, Misty.
No,
our last
that was freshman in August.
All right, Misty. The last question is always something silly, stupid, and frivolous. If you could make the clouds rain down anything, what would they rain down? See?
Oh my gosh, if they could rain down anything. Oh my gosh.
Misty looks like she's got an answer to this question already.
Oh, please. Come on, Misty.
What would you do, Misty?
Answer with me.
Anytime you're talking about raining down, it always just pops into my mind that it's raining men and let the body hit the floor are two perspectives of the same event.
I wouldn't have come up with that, so I like that.
So, Misty, you're saying you wanted to rain men?
Or do I want the bodies to hit the floor?
Or do you just want the bodies to hit the floor? Right. I don't know how it
might have rained like pizza or, like ice cream.
It can rain my next set of tires as long as they don't hit me on the head on the way
Well,
down.
what was that movie? Was it Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs?
That's the one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
But I don't know how I'd answer that. I'm reminded of this just joke.
If it could rain anything.
Where
Yarn.
the German Chancellor Putin. Who's the current German Chancellor?
I don't know. It's not Merkel anymore. It's Olaf somebody.
It's Olaf. So Olaf, Putin,
forgettable.
and Biden are having a little secret gathering out in the middle of nowhere, and they're at the end of the day. They're taking a break. They've gone out to relax by the pool, and Biden says, "Hey, you know this pool is magic. You what you do is you get up on the diving board and you bounce 3 times, and then you dive into the pool. And while you're in the air over the pool, you scream out the name of your favorite drink, and the pool will turn into that drink." He says, "Watch this." So he gets out there and he goes, he bounces 1, 2, 3, and he jumps into the pool. And while he's in the air over the pool, he says, "RC Cola," and the pool magically fills with RC Cola. It's fizzy. It smells like RC Cola. He's drinking it up on his way out of the pool. He's toweling himself off, and he sits down, and the German Chancellor dude, Olaf, he says, "Okay, I'm going to give this a shot." He gets up there and he says, "Bounce 1, 2, 3." And as he's in the air over the pool, he shouts out, "Schnapps." And the pool fills with some really high quality schnapps. He's completely pleased with this. He's drinking up as much as he can on his way out of the pool. And Putin gets up there and he says, "Okay, I'm going to try this." And he says, 1, 2, 3. And he slips and says, "Oh, crap."
Yeah.
Sorry, you guys.
RC Cola. RC Cola and a moon pie.
Yeah.
That's what my grandma told me I was going to be doing.
So
if I didn't change my ways. I'd be standing on the street. I'd be standing on the street corner with an RC Cola and a moon pie.
Is that a bad thing?
Yes, it is. Because that's what them prostitutes do. Gosh, Mickey.
Really?
I thought
they do in northern Georgia mountains. Yes.
I thought an RC Cola and a moon pie was a southern delicacy.
Yeah.
Well, it is. See, Indy, you have to understand. Have you ever seen the movie Deliverance? You've heard of the movie Deliverance. If you haven't heard,
I don't think
they filmed that movie in the county I was born in.
Okay.
And so actually, the little banjo kid, I think he actually retired from the Walmarts last year.
Okay.
I'm not even kidding.
It used to be a dishwasher at a local restaurant before that, I think.
I think he was, but for the longest time, he was a greeter at the Walmart.
She has not seen the movie, so it is also a piece of, I'm going to say, Southern Americana, right? There's a sort of Southern Gothic that goes along with this movie.
Yeah.
And it's worth I don't know. I can't say that it's worth a mindless Saturday evening because it's a slog. It's definitely a slog, but go ahead, Tim. You were about to say?
Yeah, it is a classic, and it is a bit stereotypical, but given that Burt Reynolds is a Southern native and he kind of spearheaded the project, I believe, we'll let him tell the story the way he sees it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm interested. So yeah,
it's interesting, and please don't let it cloud your vision of me because I actually am civilized after 18 plus years in the Netherlands.
Misty, have you
made it to the Netherlands when you got civilized?
Hold on, Indy, what'd you say?
I was just wondering, are moon pies part of the whole, will I learn something about moon pies if I watch this?
I don't think so. I think you just kind of have to immerse yourself in that, in that culture. And sometimes when we have longer, I'll tell y'all about my grandma's funeral. If Deliverance had a comedic relief scene, it would have been my grandma's funeral. God bless her.
So, Misty, do you do any bow hunting?
No, but I have shot a crossbow. We used to own crossbows.
Okay.
And I think I started taking out them poor innocent milk jugs when I was 4.
All right, so to wrap the episode here, and I keep trying to think if I could make the clouds rain on anything. I don't know what my own answer to that question would be. So it's not a very fair question.
For me, yarn.
Yeah.
Yarn. I just want to knit it and weave it, and and just I play with the strings.
So, thank you, Indy, for being our guest today. We're gonna wrap up our show with the answer to the trivia question, and Tim, why don't we go ahead and do that?
All right. So to refresh everybody's memories, question is, who do elite stock car race teams currently prefer to have on their pit crews as their tire changers? Is it A, former professional and college baseball and football players, B, former U.S. Navy SEALs, or C, the master ASE certified technicians who actually build the team's race cars? So we'll go around the horn. Misty, what's your
Well,
best guess?
I certainly don't think it's the techs because you got to have them for the engine. I'm going with the Navy SEALs because at least they know how to work together.
Okay. Indy?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Navy SEALs too, because I'm sure it's like they work really good under pressure, and I'm sure it's a pretty pressurous situation.
Okay. Mickey?
Oh gosh, I'm going to go with the athletes, the baseball players and the ball players. I have no logic except just trying to differ from the norm here.
Okay. Ben?
I'd kind of lean toward the SEALs, I think more because of the physicality of the job and the ability to get it done in a hurry. Although the athletes is plausible too, because if they were not star athletes, they're looking to make some money doing something.
Okay. And yes, the answer is A. And the rationale, baseball and players and football players are most likely to have physical advantages like great arc of hip rotation that enables them to change tires faster and shave a few moments off of pit stop time, which can be critical to winning a race.
Yeah.
So does that mean their hips don't lie?
Well, they're out there on camera for everyone to see. So,
right.
Miss Indy, thank you again for being our guest today. I hope our paths cross again soon, and that you'll join us on the mic whenever you feel like it.
Yeah,
come ride in Georgia.
Super fun to be here.
Yeah, and to our audience, thanks again for listening. If you have an idea for a guest or a future episode, if you have car or motorcycle questions at all, please contact us via the website. That's thethingaboutcars.com. In the meantime, we hope you're staying safe and warm out there. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.
See ya.
And y'all pray for Phil.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Thing About Cars. We'll see you on the road.